Okay, well, it is time, so we're going to get started. So, for those of you who are here, could you let me know in the chat if you can see me and hear me, I guess, more, and see the slide that I'm sharing, just to make sure that I've got this going right. Okay, all right, thank you, Dylan and Angela. Oh, great. So, okay, everyone. So, thank you so much for joining me today. So, we are going to be talking about Google's local services ads. You may also hear this referred to as Google guaranteed, but they're not exactly the same thing. So, I'll go into that and clear that up a little bit. Try to find my mouse. Oh my gosh, sorry, too many screens here. Okay, so what are we going to cover today? First of all, we're going to look at what the Google Local Services Ads or LSA program is. This is something that you do pay for every lead, but it is not at all the same as Google Ads. So we want to be clear that it's pay per lead here, not pay per click. Talk about how to get the Google guaranteed status. That's something that you don't technically need in order to run local service ads. But if you don't have it, you might as well not bother. We're going to look at what it takes to set up your ads correctly and what's going to ruin your chances of being successful. And it's easy to go wrong with this. So we'll make sure that you understand what to do and what not to do. We'll look at how Google charges for leads, and it really does charge just for leads. That's one of the nice things about this. But you have to set your account up correctly, and you have to actively engage with it to make sure that you're not paying for leads that aren't valid. So that's part of what you need to do to make the local services ads work for you. And I've seen many, many companies, many of the clients who come to us, we end up fixing this for them because they're not doing it right. This is not something where you can just set it and forget it. You have to be in there every day to make it really work. And that's how you're going to get the best ROI for your local service ads program. In fact, there are 6 key things that will help you get the most out of the LSA program. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do those things, what they are, and how it's going to help you. Before we dive into all of that, there is a workbook. It does contain a lot of this information on it. You can get it at this link, tcms.link/LSA-workbook. And it doesn't have all the slides in it. It has a lot of information in it. It's set up so you can take notes on the right. So I apologize. I should have sent it out earlier so that you could have printed it, but at least you'll have the information there in that workbook. It's also in the chat if you lose that link. I'm going to encourage you here to turn off your phones, turn off your email, get out of Facebook or Instagram, and really focus here. Take this time for yourself to learn about how to use LSA. I promise that this is going to be worth it for you. You're going to get a lot of business through it. So just eliminate all distractions and let's focus here on LSAs. And if you stay with me until the end of this presentation, I'm going to share with you a link where you can get a free SEO audit for your website. Not exactly something to do with LSAs, but it does make a difference in your local visibility. There's a ton of free resources there. And if you want a signed copy of my book, which is here, it was the #1 new release on Amazon at the end of last year in online marketing and in, can't remember what. It was pay-per-click advertising. So who am I? Why am I talking about local service ads here? So my name's Monica Hemingway. You know that. I'm a licensed arborist. I'm also an industrial psychologist, which is kind of weird, working in the tree care industry, digital strategist, best-selling author. I'm also the CEO and founder of Tree Care Marketing Solutions, and we work exclusively with tree service companies across the country. And Here are some of our many clients. I started the company in 2008. And since then, we have had clients from coast to coast up into Canada as well, where it's currently, I think my parents said 20 below. Glad we're not there. And together, we've been through COVID and all sorts of economic upheavals and weather and all sorts of other things. So at this point, I've pretty much seen it all, from the good to the bad to the ugly. And I can tell you that local service ads done right is one of the good things. So we're going to take a look at that in a lot of depth. This is our website. We drive business growth for tree service companies. At some point, if you feel that maybe you'd like some help with your marketing or you just want to chat, that's fine. You can always give me a call. This is what we do, just so you know. And I'm not selling our services today at all. So let's get into this. Of all of you who are here, who is currently using Google Local Services ads? You could let me know in the chat, yes if you are, and no if you are not. Okay, Deborah, yes. Angela, no. Dylan, no. Okay, any other yeses or nos? Tammy, yes. So we're kind of like half-half, right? So Angela, Dylan, any particular reason why you aren't using it? And I know setup can be a barrier for some people, but is there any reason why you're not using it right now? Maybe there's no answer to that question. Okay, so setup I know can be part of it, a part of the issue. Running it can be another part of it. So let's take a look at what mostly the setup. Yeah, okay, thanks Dylan. And learn the advertising options. There are a lot, Angela. I will say that of all the advertising options out there, local service ads are probably your best bet. Best leads, lowest cost. So definitely worth taking the time to set it up. So just as a refresher, this is what they are. They're the ads that show up at the very top of the screen when you Google tree services or anything related to that. That is not the same thing as Google Guaranteed. So if you look at these, you'll notice that all three of them have this little Google Guaranteed logo at the top. Most people don't know that that is actually insurance that Google has taken out on you, essentially. If a consumer who books their service through these LSA ads with you, so say they hire you for tree removal and the tree falls on the house and they can't reach a solution with you about that. Maybe, not that anyone here would do that, but maybe you're not going to cover the damages to their home. Google Guaranteed program will reimburse that consumer up to $2,000 of the total price that you've charged them. Right? They're going to investigate first. They're going to try and come to a resolution with you, but basically they're insuring the consumer. A lot of people don't know that. So if you do have this Google Guaranteed badge and you are showing up here with the local services ads, this is something you can educate people about. Let them know that this means you've passed rigorous background checks, insurance coverage, licensure, all the rest of it, and that Google is guaranteeing your work up to $2,000. Bet you people will be surprised to know that. So why does it matter? Why would you want to do these local service ads? Well, first of all, the vast majority of people, when they're looking for a home service provider, and that includes tree service, they're going to look on Google. It's the number one place that customers look when they need tree service. And because the local services ads show up at the very top, it's the first thing people see. That means they're more likely to click on it. Even if they don't click on it and they go direct to your website, for example, it's still great branding. You're getting your name up there with that Google Guaranteed badge. The people who are actively looking for services and are going to click on those local service ads are probably the most highly qualified prospects you're going to get. So you must plan to make sure you get up there, because not everybody, there's only 3 spots up there, right? 1, 2, 3. If you're not one of those 3, you're not going to be seen. You want to get up there. And this is just sort of a graphic representation of that, right? At the top, you've got your local services ads. You might have Google Ads, pay per click underneath that, not always. Then you've got your Google business profile. People often get this confused and think, well, if I have local service ads, is this the same thing as my Google business profile? It is not. Two completely separate things. However, Google's always testing things. And one of the things you may have noticed popping up here in the local pack where the Google business profiles are, you might have seen an ad appear up there. Where does that ad come from? It comes from your local services ads. So you could theoretically show up in that map pack or local pack if you are using local services ads. So one more place you can show up. And then underneath all of that, you're going to get your organic search, your SEO. You want to show up in all of those places. Ideally, the more places you show up when someone's looking for tree service, the more likely they are to click on you and you get the lead. That's why this is so important. With LSAs, it works differently than pay per click. So you're not paying for every click. Instead, you are paying for a lead. That is somebody who actually contacts you. So you can set up a budget for that. You set up a weekly budget amount that you are willing to pay per week to get those leads. If you set it too low and you spend it, say on Monday, your ads stop running for the rest of the week. If you set it too high and you don't get that many leads, that's fine. You won't spend it, right? You'll never go above it, and you'll most likely be below the budget you set. The amount of leads you're going to get from day to day is going to vary. And the good thing about this is you can dispute leads if it is a bad lead, if it is not a valid lead. What does that mean? Google defines 5 different categories of leads that you can dispute. And basically, it's if somebody, they're not looking for your service, they're trying to sell you something, maybe they called the wrong number, it's a spam call or robocall, something like that. If somebody's looking for service in an area that you do not serve, that doesn't count. Or a service that you do not offer, that doesn't count either. And they won't charge you for duplicates. So if somebody calls you a couple of times within a 15-day window, they only count the first one. If they do charge you again, you dispute it. That's why, with that and the fact that you're showing up at the top of the search results, this is a total no-brainer for any tree service. You show up at the top, you pay per lead, not per click. It's a lower cost per lead than you're going to get through things like Google Ads. Right now, we're seeing it roughly half or less of what you would pay with Google Ads. You get a higher quality of lead than you would with lead generation services like Home Advisor, definitely Angie. Well, they're kind of the same thing these days. Other lead gen services are going to cost you more and probably not as good quality as what you're going to get for local services ads. The other benefit here is that you can ramp up your spend, you can take it down, and you can pause your local services ads, and it will not affect your ability to get your ads showing again. If you try to do that in Google Ads, if you say pause your ads, or you hugely increase or hugely decrease your budget in Google Ads, it's going to kill you. The algorithm doesn't know what to do. It starts over from scratch, and all of a sudden, you're paying way more and getting crappy leads. So never do that in Google Ads, but you can do it with LSAs. So when you're really busy, take down your spend. When you need more leads, bring it back up again. And doing that will give a solid ROI for all of our clients. Probably most tree service companies are going to see a very strong return from these. Now, it sounds pretty, too good to be true, right? Well, there are a few things you have to be aware of, and before you decide to move forward with it, including how the ranking system works that determines whether or not your ads will appear and whether they appear in position 1, 2, or 3. So how Google decides what to put up there It's sort of like an auction. That's similar to Google Ads, but in this case, Google is looking at some different things. So the first thing it's looking at is, are you Google guaranteed? Have you earned that status from them? You can have a local ads account, and your ads could conceivably show up if you're not Google guaranteed. It's highly unlikely, but it can happen. But if you're Google guaranteed, if you can get Google guaranteed, you absolutely should do that. It's also looking at your bid. How much are you willing to spend to generate leads? Don't make the mistake of thinking, oh, I want to only spend $20 per lead and I'm going to tell Google that. Set a really high weekly budget and let Google maximize leads for you. And we'll look at that in more detail a little bit later. Google also looks at your reviews, online reviews on Google. Doesn't care about Angie or Facebook or Yelp or anything else, just Google. High ranking and a large number of reviews mean you're more likely to show up in the ads. Another important factor is your responsiveness to customer inquiries and requests. And by responsiveness, Google doesn't mean you see the lead come in, you pick up the phone and call them. Google doesn't know you've called them. Responsiveness means you actually use the local services ads platform itself to indicate the status of each lead that's come in and tell Google, yeah, this was good, this was bad, I'm archiving that, I'm disputing that, and this one, I've given them an estimate. That's what it means by responsiveness. The quicker you can do that for each lead, the more likely your ad is to show up. And the final piece of it is the consumer or the customer, potential customer who is searching online. They play a role as well. Your ad's more likely to show up if you are closer, physically located to where that person is. It depends on what they are searching for, like how relevant is what you offer as your services to what they're looking for. It takes into consideration the time of day. Are your ads even running? You might not be running them at the time that person's online. So that's kind of the last piece, the fit with what the consumer is looking for. I'll add here also that if you've had serious complaints or repeated complaints about your business, so for example, if people have had to go to Google Guaranteed and say, look, I haven't gotten satisfaction from this particular company, I want my money. If that has happened once, sometimes it can happen. All right, that's the ranking factors. What else do you need to know? A couple of things. First, you cannot directly control what the ads say or what they look like. Google decides on it. However, you can influence it by carefully selecting from some of the fields during the account setup. So we're going to take a look at those. You really have to keep all the profile information up to date. So you can't just leave it and think, it's fine, I've changed it in my Google business profile, my hours, so this is Google, right? It should show up here too. It doesn't. This is a completely separate system. It doesn't, for the most part, talk to anything else. So if your business hours change, your service area, and any of those things change, you need to change it in the local service ads platform as well. You can do a lot of things in there. You can make a lot of changes on your own, but there are some things that you need to connect with support, Google support, in order to do it. And one of those things, and this is something that is important to put on your profile, is your Better Business Bureau accreditation or rating. So if you do have that, you absolutely want it to show up on your ad, you have to contact support because they're going to go check. They're not going to take your word for it. They're going to go check on that. If you want to expand your service area, say into another state, for example, you're located in Northern Virginia and you also do work in Maryland, and you want to make sure now that that Maryland area is shown on your local service ads, you can't just do that. You need to go through support because they're probably going to ask you for if there's a license required or something like that in the other state. Anything about your business itself, the name, the location, the phone number, the website, any of those changes also need to go through support. You can't do it yourself. because again, they're going to check it. And if you want to link your account to a different Google business profile, you need to go through support too. For example, if you have two different physical locations, maybe on opposite sides of a large city, you've got physical locations there, you've got two different Google business profiles, but this one has a ton more reviews and they're better, but this is the one linked to your local service ads, you might want to make the change and connect it to the one that has more and better reviews. And you do that through Google. Now, I've said you get good leads out of this, you pay a lower price for it, but you, just like anything else, you do get some people shopping on price still, and you must follow up quickly, same day. Otherwise, it's not going to work for you very well. So how do you apply? How do you set up a local service ads? Well, you complete the application. There is a whole application online. Few things to know. First, you must use a Google email account. It could be a Gmail account, but it should probably be one associated with your business. So if you don't have a Google or Gmail account, you're gonna need to set one up. If you have a Google Ads account, use the same email address as you're using on your Google Ads account. That way you can link the two together and use the billing profile from your Google Ads to pay for your local services ads. Makes things much, much easier. And if you don't, Google will try to force them together and you can end up with multiple accounts and it's a nightmare. So use your Google Ads account if you've got one. Google will run a background check on you. It does say in the instructions, and all employees who enter customer homes. In our business, you don't need to have anyone other than the business owner do the background check. You don't have people entering homes, I mean, maybe incidentally, but it's not like a plumbing service, for example, or electricians who are actually working in somebody's house. There, everybody who does that has to go through a background check. With tree service, you just say one person, and it's going to be the owner. If the owner has a background that makes it difficult to pass a background check, you might have to get a little creative to find somebody else who can take the background check. They could be the general manager or something like that. But just know you're going to have to go through that. They are going to check licenses. So if there is a license required to perform any of the types of service that you provide, you need to share that license with Google. They'll also check your insurance. So they'll ask for your certificate of insurance. Don't make the mistake of sending, a lot of people have a copy, sort of a blank copy. It shows all your coverage, but it doesn't really show much else that they'll share with customers to say, hey, look, we are insured, right? What Google needs is the real certificate of insurance, meaning that at the bottom, there's always a description of operations. If you're looking at the certificate of insurance or on a letter from the insurer, it has to say tree services or tree care services or tree and landscape services. It has to say that you do tree work. If it doesn't say that, they won't accept it, okay? Because they're looking for, obviously, insurance for tree work. The background check is done through Pinkerton, and that's who you're going to be hearing from when you get to that step. And yeah, business owners must do it. There are some requirements. So this is what Google says, you've got to go through all of this. You need to have a minimum of 5 reviews on Google. So through your Google business profile, you need 5 reviews before you can be accepted into the LSA program. Google wants to make sure you're legitimate and you're doing good work. So that's understandable. The general liability insurance, I think last I saw it was about $250,000, I think, which in our industry, that's not much. Most of us carried, in this case, $1 million or more. So just be aware of that. And you're going to go here, adwords.google.com/local services/sign-up. And it's going to take you to this page. And you're just going to go through and follow the directions. The first thing it's going to do, though, is ask you to verify your eligibility by putting in your location, your area code, or zip code, and tree services. That is one of the options to choose, is tree services. This did not used to be available everywhere. At this point, I haven't come across an area at least in the US, where it's not available, but they make you check anyway. You'll then come to this. This is sort of your business verification dashboard, and you're going to go through each of these things. By the time you get to here, start with the background check. It can take, during COVID, it was taking sometimes 3 months or more to get through the background check. Now it's 2 to 4 weeks would be about normal. If it takes much longer than that, maybe something's wrong and you'll want to check in, and I'll show you how to do that later. And then you'll just want to follow the instructions for the rest of this stuff. Once you have an account and you've been approved, your background check has been passed, there are 6 keys to being successful with local service ads. And these are the things that, if you do them, will really help you generate a significant return from it and get into those 3 ads at the top. Why? Because these are things that many people don't do. So if you do it, you're way ahead of them. So you're going to dial in the information. This is putting all the information you possibly can into your profile, responding quickly every time, marking your jobs as booked, dealing with disputes and doing that quickly as well, driving verified reviews, and this is a very particular type of review, and targeting an 85% booking rate. Let's have a look at what those things mean. There are a lot of parts to an LSA profile, and they all play a role in getting your ad seen and generating a consistent flow of leads at a reasonable cost. And I'm going to go through all of those parts one by one. If you already have an account and you've got it set up, I encourage you to go through and look at these as well and make sure you've got it set up properly. And the first one is your service area. This is really, really important. Ads are shown to people who Google estimates based on their IP address or cell phone signals. Google estimates that they're located in the zip code or the town or the city that you've specified, as here where it says, oh, you can't actually see my mouse. Okay, well, where it says include these service areas, if you've put it there, they can show it. Google will also show it to people who are expressing an interest in your service area. So let's say Philadelphia, all right? People who say Tree Service Philadelphia, even if they're in Detroit, they can see your local service ads. A few things to note here, and this is where people get kind of confused sometimes. If you put in, let's say Philly, right? Big city, multiple zip codes, but you only serve the eastern half of Philadelphia. If you put in Philadelphia, your ads can show up outside of your service area. You don't want that to happen. So you put in the zip codes that are your service area. Now those zip codes are in Philadelphia. So Google still looks at it and says, well, these are in Philly, I'll show the whole city, which is not what you want. That's where this exclude these service areas comes in. So if you're only covering part of a city, make sure you exclude the parts you don't serve. Or if you're only, serving this area and not anything around it, you can put those zip codes or those towns in as exclude these service areas to limit the area that Google's going to show your ads for. This is really important because if you don't do this and someone outside your service area, calls you and Google charges you $25 for it, and you're like, well, we don't serve that area, Google says, well, it's in Philadelphia, right? You didn't say you didn't serve all of Philadelphia. I mean, sure, you said these areas, but you didn't exclude that. So you have to pay for it. So be really, really careful and exclude stuff just to make sure you've got your bases covered there. Next, you're going to set your budget. There are two things here to look at. One is bidding mode. That's the first thing. And you've got two options. You can let Google set the right bid. This is called maximize leads. I found, and the other option is to manually set a maximum bid. So I don't want to pay more than 25 bucks for a lead, let's say, okay? Don't manually set it unless you've got a lot of experience with this and you know where your leads are and what is a realistic maximum. Just don't do it. I found that companies who do that invariably set it too low and then they miss out on a lot of leads, because if you set it too low, Google won't show your ads. So let Google figure out how much to charge you for a lead. The other piece here is your average weekly budget. And in this example that I'm looking at, you can see it says $396. I recommend that you set it way higher than that. 1,000, 2,000. Some people set it at $10,000. That does not mean you're going to spend that amount in a week. If you're just starting out with local service ads, and I know a couple of you are, you're trying to break into those top 3 that show up on the search results page. Right? The companies that are there have probably been there for a while. There are probably a bunch of them that are sort of jockeying for position up there. You're the new kid on the block. Google is less likely to show your ads because you don't have that track record. One of the ways you can try to overcome that is by saying, well, I'm willing to spend a lot of money. Here, Google, come take my money. And it's more likely to show your ads then. Right? You're not going to spend $10,000 a week. There is no way on earth, I don't think, in nearly any service area I can think of, where you would spend that amount of money on local service ads. But it might give you a chance to get into those top 3, start generating some leads, and then over time, you can bring that budget down. Google does tell you, and it says right here, weekly target. This is Google's estimate of how many leads you can bring in per week with the budget you've set. Thing is that Google overestimates. It always says, oh, you're going to get far more leads than you actually get. So don't take that to be accurate. Assume that it's an overestimate. Set your budget higher, maybe than you even feel comfortable with, knowing that you're highly unlikely to spend that. And even if you do, as long as you have the capacity to handle that many leads, you can't beat it at this price. You know, it's absolutely worth it. So, and also you can bring it down if you find you are getting far too many leads. Once you've got your budget in place, you're going to select your services. And there are 2 parts to this. There's kind of 2 parts to everything here. The first part you're going to find in the section called Business Info. And what you see here are a bunch of things that you can select, and you can select up to 6 of them. These are unique to tree service providers. So plumbers would see a different list of things. Accountants would see a different list of things. Well, maybe accountants can't do this. I can't remember. Be careful here. Do pick 6 as long as they apply to you. These are things that will show up in your ad. So if you say, for example, if you have an arborist on staff, do check off arborist available, because this is the only place that you can tell Google that and have it show up in your ads. If you do 24/7 emergency service, absolutely check it off here if you want people to contact you for that. If you don't do something, don't check it off. This is another one that, if you say you do stump grinding and you don't, and somebody then calls you, you can't dispute that lead because you've said, I do it, right? So pick 6 things here that are absolutely relevant to you. That's under business info. There's also that COVID-19 section that's still there. Pick from that, whatever's relevant to your business. And these things can show up in your ads. The other part is choosing your actual services, what you offer. This is predetermined by Google. This is the list for tree service providers. There's nothing else to choose from. So choose what's relevant to you. And again, if you don't do it, don't choose it because you'll have to pay for the leads, even though they're not relevant to you. Then you got to set your business hours. Be realistic here. If you are not really reachable 24/7, don't put 24/7. Put your actual business hours. These are hours during which Google expects you to pick up the phone. So think about it that way, I guess. There's two ways you can get there. One is when you go to your overall overview in your account, you'll see one of the options is a square thing that says business hours. You can also, at the top where I've got it circled there where it says choose a business status, that will also take you to your business hours. Now you'll notice that there's a drop-down box here. One menu says taking customers and temporarily closed. A lot of people are frightened to check on temporarily closed, but there are situations in which you have to do that. If you want to stop your ads, you want to pause them, the only way you can actually stop your ads from showing is to select the business is temporarily closed. Now, don't worry, this does not go over to your Google business profile and shut that down as well or anything like that. It just means Google will stop showing your local service ads. If you just simply changed your business hours to be closed every day of the week, it still won't turn off your ads. They'll still show just as they always do. If you change your budget and say, I want my budget to be 0, well, you can't do that. So you set it at 1, it might still show your ads, right? So the only way you can do it is temporarily closed. Now, don't confuse business hours with your ad schedule. Those are two separate things. So you can set your ad schedule, as you see here at the top right, you can select all day, or you can have it be your business hours. Or I think you can probably specify something else entirely. Don't be afraid to use all day, okay? Because Google knows that your business hours are your business hours. It doesn't expect you to pick up the phone in the middle of the night. But people can leave you a voicemail, or if you've got messaging turned on, they can leave you a message, and then you just reply to them first thing in the morning. So if you're looking for more leads, put your ad schedule to all day. And the final two pieces are to add photos to your account. So add your logo and add some pictures of people, your crew members at work, smiling faces, people in the office. Most people skip this, but it does make a difference because people like to do business with people. They want to see you. So show them, right? Show you're legitimate, show you're smiling, you're friendly, and it will make a difference in having people contact you. The last thing here is under settings, and that is selecting, do you want to get leads by message and email in addition to calls? So Google doesn't use your actual email address. It's anonymized, so it's secure, so you don't need to worry about that. And if somebody chooses, if you say yes, people can send you a message through Google, and you'll get a notification email, or if you install the app, there's an LSA app, you'll get a notification there, and you can then message back to the person, or you can call them back. I've had a lot of people say to me, well, I don't want to do that. I get so many messages already. Enough already. So why would you want to do this? Why would you turn this on then? Well, the big reason is messages cost 50% of the cost of a phone lead. So you're going to pay half price if it comes in through message. You'll get the customer's message, whatever they sent you. You'll get their name, their zip code, their job details, what they're looking for, and their phone number. So you can see right away, is this a qualified lead or not? And you can respond to them. You do need to respond to them in a timely manner. If you don't, consistently don't do that, Google will turn off your ability to receive leads via message. So I do recommend, because Because ideally you should be in this platform every day, have it open on a window on your dashboard, on your screen somewhere. Do turn this on because you're getting leads for half price. So that's a setup. Next, let's look at responding quickly. So I just talked about that, right? You need to respond quickly. What does that mean and why, right? It's one of the factors that affect your ranking, that affect whether your ads show up and whether they show up in 1, 2, or 3, right? You'll get a notification anytime a lead comes in, whether it's a call or a message, you'll still get an email notification for it. Click on that notification and it'll take you to your dashboard. If you're not already logged in, you can log in there. Leads are considered new for 15 days. Basically, within 15 days, you need to do something with them. And that means, well, responding to them. What does that mean? It means marking your jobs as booked. When you go in, you'll want to show Google that you're responsive by doing 4 things. You're going to mark it as booked, which means that you've scheduled the work or they've accepted the proposal. Some people do it, say it's booked when they go out to give an estimate. You could, or when you've scheduled that estimate, I guess would be the time that you would say this is booked. It doesn't mean that the work itself is booked. It means that the estimate is. You will want to add the customer's details in there. So their name, you want to include their email address. I'll tell you why later. And if it is a lead that is no good or it doesn't go anywhere, they decide they don't want an estimate or they don't accept your proposal, then you're not going to just leave it there. You're going to archive it. Right? So every one of these new leads, you're going to do something with it. You can dispute it. I guess I should have put dispute on there too. This is your dashboard. Okay. When new leads come in, they'll show up here under new. After 15 days, they'll move to active. Or you can move them to active. You can also move them into booked, completed, or archived. In this example on the screen here, you can see there are 194 active. Please don't do that. You really don't want things in active other than the ones that you're still waiting on to schedule an estimate for. If you've scheduled an estimate, you move them to booked. When the work has been done, you move them to completed. If they refuse the estimate or decide they don't want it from you, you're going to archive them. But the point is, get them out of that active list. How do you do that? Okay, a lead comes in. You're going to see this potential customer. And at the top right, you can click on mark as booked. You'll see their status. In this case, it's new. You'll see their lead type. So was it phone? Was it message? Was it email? The business category, that's you. Should always say tree service provider. You're going to add in their customer name. If the call was answered, where at the bottom right now it says potential customer missed call. If the call was answered, there'll be a call recording that you can listen to, and Google also listens to it. It's one of the things they use in helping to decide if you're disputing a lead. It helps them make a decision on that. And they also do it for quality assurance purposes. You can see in this case here at the top in gray, it says this lead has not been charged. That's because the call wasn't answered. So you didn't have any contact with them. They're not charging you for the lead. In that case, what you would do is at the top right, you would click on archive, get rid of it. If you had answered it and you're scheduling an estimate, you would mark it as booked. And this is what a booked lead looks like. This is where you would put in the customer name and email. This is really important. You always want to have that email, so ask them for it. Why? Because you're going to get a review from them through the local service ads program when the job is done. And you can't do that without an email. when the work has been done, you're going to mark it as completed. You can always click on the top right there where it says edit to change the status of anything, right? If at this point you don't see the email in there, the customer email, put it in there. The next thing to do is to dispute invalid leads, right? Remember I said you only pay for qualified leads, and that's true, but you have to tell Google if it's not a valid lead. And then they won't charge you. So that list, if it's outside your area, not your service, if it's spam, if it's a repeat caller, if it's a robocall, if it's a sales call, something like that, you dispute it and they will look into it. You must dispute it within 30 days. Another reason why you want to be in the system, ideally daily. They'll give you an answer within a week, and that decision is final. You cannot appeal that decision. Okay? They then apply a credit to your account within roughly 40 days or so. You'll see that credit appear. It's not a refund. It's a credit that can be used for future ad spend. Okay? People sometimes get a little unhappy about that. If you miss the call and there's no voicemail, then the lead won't be charged, so you don't have to dispute that, right? And you can see that at the top of this screen. To dispute a lead for active calls, at the top right of the screen, you'll see those 3 dots. You click on that, you choose dispute, and then you tell them why. And it can only be one of these reasons. I would also recommend that you put in some additional details into your notes section. So that's for each lead has a section that says your notes. Just put a little note in there saying why this is not a valid lead, both for your own sake, so you can remember down the road, and as additional information for Google. Then we have verified reviews. This is a critical piece to keeping your ads running and showing up in those top 3. And it's the reason why you want to get the customer's email. The number of reviews is a major driver of your ranking in local services. And more importantly, the number of verified reviews will make a huge difference in your ranking. Actually, forget the rest of this. I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so there are some different links that you get. So when you're setting up your account, Google will give you a link like this that says Get Verified Reviews. This link is specific for the local service ads program. It is different from your Google Business Profile review link. Those are two completely separate programs, sort of. We'll consider them separate. Verified reviews from the local service ads program show up in your Google Business Profile. So that's why people think they're linked, but it's just the reviews. They'll show up in your GBP. This link here, I wouldn't give this to people unless you are just starting out. So if you only have, you don't have enough reviews to actually qualify yet or get your local service ads up and running, choose some of your recent customers that are happy with you and send them this link and ask them to do the review. This is going to mark those as verified reviews, get you some reviews so that you can get running with your LSA program. Other than that, I wouldn't use that link. Instead, what you do is you go to you've got 2 ways to ask for reviews, verified reviews. You can go into the individual customer, and at the top right of the screen for each customer, there's a little edit button. You click on that and it will open up this edit booking details. And you're going to click on ask for a review now. That's why you need the email address, because Google is going to send out a request for a review to that person. That's the only way to get a verified review. If you are using a review management program, so for example, our Reputation Builder or Birdeye or Trustpilot or what have you, those are great, and you can generate lots of reviews on Google for that, but those are not verified reviews. right? So there's a difference. You want to get verified if you can. So you click on there. Underneath that is add details for tracking. Enable that. More data is always good. So I'd enable both of those. The other way to do this, oh, and a Google verified job will show up. It'll say that next to it. The review will say Google verified beside it. The other way to do this is once you're in your overall dashboard, you go to reviews menu on the left-hand side, and it'll show you all of your reviews. So in this case, this one of our clients has 305 Google reviews, but there are 24 that they can still ask for a review. So you click on that and it'll show you the list, and you can then click on ask for a review to the right of the customer's name. And as long as you've got their name and their email address in there, it will send them a request. The final thing I said was target an 85% booking rate or higher. Why? That seems like a high number, right? Google wants to know that it's sending qualified leads to you. More feedback you can give it, the better it can tweak things to keep sending you the right kind of leads. So marking leads as booked tells Google to send you more leads like that, right? 85%, because these leads coming through the LSA program tend to be pretty strong, and you're marking it as booked when they schedule an estimate, you should be able to get to 85% booked. That doesn't mean closed jobs, it means booked an estimate in this case. And again, down the road, if they don't accept it, you're going to just archive them. Okay? How do you know what your booking rate is? Google tells you. Of course it does. In your overview, you're going to see your budget spent in whatever time frame it is that you're looking at. So this was for February. We're still in February, aren't we? Yes, this is February. That's the budget spent. You can see on the left the number of leads that have been charged. It will show you disputed leads as well and how they came in, phone or message. And on the right, it tells you how many appointments were booked from the leads charged and what the percent booking rate is. In this case, it's 25%. Don't let that be you. You want that to be much, much higher. Oops. If you do all of those things, you should see a steady flow of leads coming from the LSA program. But if you're still not getting enough, there are a few things you can try. One is open up your budget to even higher. Go for it. I've seen people put ridiculous amounts, like $100,000 a week on there. I don't recommend you do that, but raise it. I don't know that you'll find a lower cost for qualified leads anywhere in online marketing, at least. You could also look at expanding your services, your service areas, your ad schedule, business hours, only if it makes sense to do so. Don't do that just to try and generate more leads, because if it's not actually where you do work or the kind of work you do, and you've said you do, you're going to pay for those leads. Close out every lead. So mark them as booked or archived or completed when the job is done, and request verified reviews on every single job that gets done. Right? That's what's going to help move the needle. So if you already have an account, do those things. If you need help, Google, believe it or not, does want to help you. So if you've tried to set up an account by yourself and run into all sorts of problems, it can be really frustrating. But Google does have support reps. And if you go to this URL here, local services get help, they give you you can send in an email, you can even phone them. You may get an email that comes from a google.com address, and this email signature will say TTEC on behalf of Google. That is legitimate. That is actually a company that does the support for Google, and they will help you to get your account set up. So use them. Ask them questions. They'll walk you through stuff. They'll try and fix things for you. So do take advantage of that resource. For background checks, it goes through Pinkerton. If you run into difficulty there, this is contact information they don't always share, so good to have it handy. You can email them and you can phone them directly, and they try to be helpful. Be aware, though, that sometimes you get Google saying, well, it's Pinkerton's fault. There's something wrong at their end with the background check, and Pinkerton's going, no, everything's right here. It's Google's fault. They just haven't updated their system. That's not uncommon, so be persistent. Keep talking to your person, the TTEC on behalf of Google person, and eventually it will get resolved. So, what should you do now? Well, sign up. If you haven't yet, sign up for it. It's a no-brainer. Complete the background check, get that going right away. Make sure you have tracking in place so that you can tell what kind of return you're getting on this investment. In the dashboard on the local services ads, when you say a job has been completed, you can actually put the dollar value in there too. That information can then be used in reporting to see how well these ads are working for you. Just make sure that you've got something, whether you're using QuickBooks or you're using Arbor Gold or Single Ops or Arbostar or whatever it is, make sure you're tracking it so that you can see, are these leads good leads consistently for you? Are they turning into booked work? And what's the dollar value of that? The more tracking, the more you can make these work for you. The biggest piece of advice, though, is use the platform. Be on there every day, close out jobs, update things, ask for reviews, and keep playing the game while the ROI makes sense. Right now, it absolutely does, but I am seeing that the cost of these leads is steadily going up. So we were consistently getting them around $25 a lead. I think now it's more an average of $35 looking across all of our clients. So it's slowly going up, but not as fast as Google Ads is going up. That's gone crazy. Everybody's competing in there. So that sort of wraps it up, right? We've covered what the program is and how it's different from Google Guaranteed. Google Guaranteed just means that you've proven you're a valid company, you have the insurance, you've passed a background check. That doesn't mean that you've got local services ads set up. So two separate things. We've talked about what it takes to set it up correctly. So if you've already set it up, go back, take a look, make sure. And how Google charges for leads, how you can dispute them, and what it takes to make this thing work for you. So what's next? You can go to treecaremarketingsolutions.com/resources. That page is always there. So you can go anytime. There are a lot of resources there. I keep adding things that are specific to our industry that I think are going to be really helpful. I mean, I was in a tree service before. My husband had a company. So these are things that I hope you will find really useful. You can also get in touch. So feel free to call directly if you have a question. If you are interested in seeing whether we might be able to work together, you can go to treecaremarketingsolutions.com/discovery. And there's a little form to fill out there. And if it looks like it's a good fit, you can set up an appointment to have a chat. And with that, questions. Any questions? I know I went through that fast because we kind of went down for a little bit. I forgot to mention book. If anybody would like a copy of my book, specifically about online marketing for tree service companies, it was written, published in November. There's a lot of really helpful information in here. Just leave your name and your mailing address in the chat here on the webinar, and we'll get one of these sent out to you. No cost, we'll just send it out to you for free. I really want to make sure as many people as possible, learn how to do this well. So, any questions? Oh, Clark, okay. I'm guessing you're going to put your address. We'll send you a book. Anybody have any questions about local service ads? One thing I will mention, I know a lot of companies, marketing companies, charge to manage local service ads for you. Be careful. Unless they are listening to the calls and going into the system and setting up estimates and marking things as booked for you, there's nothing for an agency or a company to manage on your behalf. It's really up to you. So what are they going to do? Change the budget for you, right? So we don't charge for it for our full service clients to keep it going. Just some things to be aware of. Okay. Angela Clark. So is there a specific budget that works best? No. I'd say just set it high. Start at $1,000 a week. Again, you're not going to be spending that. And if you do see that budget going through quickly, you can always take it down at any time. But if you want to break in, if you want to get shown, you're going to have to set it at a fairly high level. So I always recommend starting at $1,000. Okay. Okay. Any other questions? There's it's a fairly straightforward, but it can be time consuming to set up these programs and make them work. Okay. Well, I guess no questions then. You can always shoot us an email, support@treecaremarketingsolutions.com. Well, there's always somebody there to answer, and we're happy to help out if you have any questions. Yeah, I guess that's it. So thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you got some value out of this. If you did, I hope you'll leave a review. Leave a review online. Let people know that this was helpful for you. Hopefully not the reverse. And again, feel free to get in touch if you have any questions at all. Oh, about seasons of ads. Seasons meaning, is there seasonality there that it works better or worse in different seasons? I'm going to assume that's what the question is about. It depends. It depends on where you are in the country. So the further north you are, the less likely you are to generate a lot of leads from it in the winter because people aren't thinking about it. It really depends on, are people looking for tree services online? If they aren't, fewer leads, right? Keep the budget high, don't change it, but there will be fewer leads. If a storm has just gone through, trees are down, doesn't matter what time of year it is, more leads will come through. If you do emergency service, again, make sure you check that off. So I keep the budget at that $1,000 minimum all year round. You can go higher than that. If you're getting a lot of leads, they're good leads, then ramp up your budget. Keep going until you're not getting more leads anymore and the budget's not being spent. And this is where it's different than Google Ads. Google Ads, Google will spend your money. If you say I have $1,000 to spend this month, it will find a way to spend $1,000 for you. Whether that generates good leads or not is kind of beside the point. With local service ads, it doesn't work that way. It's actual leads you're getting. And if there aren't enough people looking, you can't spend the money. It won't spend it for you. So, okay, with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you all. Have a wonderful afternoon, and I hope to see you on the next one. We'll be doing one next month on changes in search engine optimization and things you could do to your website to help it get found in the organic search results. Have a good day, everyone.